Welcome, everyone, to the Cup of Coffee podcast with me, your host, Tom Dillon. This is being recorded live at our weekly online meeting and broadcast around the world. Today's topic is Property is Not My Day Job with the lovely Esu Hill. Before we start, I'd like to say by way of a disclaimer that today's a wonderful discussion, but that nothing said here constitutes financial advice, and you should always take professional advice before investing your hard-earned cash. There may be the odd unplanned swear word along the way as well. The format for today is that Esu will speak to us for a little bit, and then we'll take some questions from me and from the floor, so get those ready if you're in the meeting. With regards Esu Hill is a 70-year-old entrepreneur who's been running a training company and managing a portfolio of commercial and residential property since the early 1980s. Well, it says the 80s, but I'm going to assume the 1980s. There's hope for her yet, it says here. Let's find out if there is. Isu, good morning. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. And you?
I'm very well. Have you been reading foreign language textbooks? Because that's what they
No,
all
I
say.
wish I had. I can
Uh,
speak Swahili though.
could you do a Swahili language version of this podcast? We could record that live.
Jambo, habari yako iko nini?
Yeah, can I have that with garlic? Uh,
No, I'm just asking you how you are.
right. Genki. Anata. Oh, sorry. I thought we were doing foreign languages.
No, can't speak Japanese.
So, competition of foreign languages over. Stags in the clearing, happy with each other. What excitements have you got for us today? For people who don't know, me and Isu, we go back a fairly long way. Not as far back as we go, go in total. But and
Tom, I'm old enough to be your bloody mother here.
you are old enough to be my mother. But that's a good thing. I've had my dad on. I like having more experienced people on because they've got more experience. And I think we were chatting about this in the week, but I think people my age and younger, which is most people, of course, really like to hear from more experienced people because they've had more experiences. I'm fascinated by what's gone on and what things used to be like, and because I think there's lots to learn
Tom,
from.
are you trying to crawl out of a hole?
There's no
Just
hole.
say old people.
There's no hole. You're old. Before you forget all the things you're going to tell us, why don't you tell us some stuff?
Well, I thought I'd do it the other way around. So
Okay.
you guys have got to vote. Either I talk about my background when I earlier on, the 70s, the 80s, COVID, Wales, or commercial property. So
I've
where do
already,
you want to
I've already,
go?
I've already forgotten
Am
all
I
about
be
that.
putting you on the spot?
Well, why don't I choose one and then because otherwise we'll be here all day. And then we'll maybe take some from the crowd in the chat as you do the first one. I want to know about the 70s. That sounds great.
Right. So I think you guys have got it easy. Well, us guys have got it easy these days because I remember when we wanted to buy a house, first house in the 70s,
Mm,
and the banks were not lending. So basically, what was happening was you had to you had to save with a building society for 6 months before you could even get a mortgage, and then you'd get interviewed. So that was how easy it was to get a mortgage in the 70s, unlike how it is today, because the markets opened up. So that was the 70s for me. And also, I came to this country, I'll let you out of the hook a little bit. So I came to this country in 1971, so good old Idi Amin days.
mm,
And we we were here, and my dad came. We all came here as refugees, and my dad had 5 kids and 55 quid in his pocket. So we'd lost everything we had. So my message to whoever is listening is, if you work for it, it's there for you. And he's cleared off our Tom. So I don't know where he's gone. He, have we decided to call it a day, Tom?
I think that's it. I think that's it. That's plenty,
Well,
isn't it?
let's call it a day.
Yeah.
Internet's crap.
Thanks, guys. Um, I was reflecting that might be the first mention of Idi Amin on the podcast in the years we've been doing this, and that's a good thing. It's good to get some more culture. People can be googling that, the younger generation,
Yeah.
learning about Idi Amin.
But I think a lot of people who came here from the Idi Amin days would thank Idi Amin for getting rid of them. So, there's a bright side to every story.
Sure, sure, sure. Um, so So what was the interview like? Once you've saved up for 6 months and you want to go for a mortgage, what were they asking? Like, are you a waster? Have you saved up? Have you got
Tom, you're
enough money?
talking about 50 years ago. Come on. Can,
No, though, I'm
can
talking
you
about the
remember
interview.
what happened 20 years ago?
Not
It was
really.
just, I think there were sort of grey suited men in their ties, weren't they, in those days? And they sort of sat across the table. I mean, it reminded me a bit about the colonial days, and they sit across the table and ask you the question, and you've got to go down, but in an English way, because my husband's English, with your cloth cap, rolling your cloth cap kind of thing to
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
So
got to be all
that's how it
respectful.
was in those
Yeah.
days.
Well, given that
Yeah.
that rounds out the 70s when I was interested, it seems the obvious place to go after that, and I will open this up to the crowd. In fact, crowd participants, if you can remember any of these options, I'll ask us to run through them again in a minute. Then pop them in the chat, and I'll get the most popular one on here. But why don't you run us through the options again, Isu, and then also tell us about the 80s while people are thinking about it.
Right. Well, I'll carry on to the 80s. Never mind, these people can't remember what's going on. If they can't be asked listening, then I'll just do it my way.
I can,
Um,
yeah, yeah, you're always good, yeah.
right. Okay. I think we started buying properties in the 80s, and I can remember buying a first kind of buy to let house. You know, in Moss Side just after the riots.
Mm,
And nobody wanted to buy houses or go to Moss Side because it was a no-go area and people were scared. But we ended up buying three houses in Moss Side for £3,000 a piece.
mm,
But and the woman who we bought it off, she had 18, and this is the dodgy dealing that you don't know that goes on in the background. And there was a man called Freddie blank blank blank, and it was kind of a bit like the Wild West because he wanted a deposit, but he wasn't an estate agent and things like that. And we saw it in Gumtree, because he didn't have the right moves and all of that in
mm,
those days. And you had estate agents and things like that. So we bought houses for £3,000 a piece in Moss Side. We got a grant of three and a half thousand per house, and our rent we used to get was £63 a week. So you covered your rent, you covered the cost of buying the house, in a year. I mean, could you imagine sort of buying a house in Moss Side for 200 grand these days, getting a 200 grand grant and then renting it out for 200 grand a year? You can't do it these days. So, we were quite lucky. But having said that, we worked for it. I mean, I can remember we bought another house in Moss Side, and that was about 5 grand. And a Vauxhall Viva, So that's how deals were done. You can't, because even cars were scarce then. So it wasn't that, it wasn't, the market wasn't that regulated. So listening to Dan earlier, it seems so sophisticated compared to, what it was then. But one of the things I've got to say is when I talked about dodgy dealing, I mean, the woman had 18 houses that we bought three houses from. And when we tried to buy the rest of the houses, can you imagine if we managed to buy 18 houses at 3 grand a piece? All the shutters came down. Until this day, we couldn't we haven't found out what happened. I think there was sort of solicitors in the background or whatever that decided, this sounds like a good deal, and they ended up buying it. The rest of the what's 18 minus 3? 16. No, not
yeah,
16. Where am
that's
I
close.
going? I did frigging A-level maths here.
How did that
It
go?
was that long ago. 15 houses, I don't know how what happened, but that's what happened in the 80s. And it was good times. It was a good time to buy, and what did they say? When I were a lad, things were this way and that way. So anyway,
So far I've learned things were a mess in the 70s, no good at all, and then they were great in the 80s. So that was a bit quite a
Yeah,
turnaround, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah. And I wish, hindsight's a good thing. Um, but we could have bought some more, but then you start having children and your day job takes over, doesn't it?
Yeah, tell me about it.
Mm.
Yogesh that's a great question to sort of bring it. We'll go back into the past in a minute because that's fun. But to bring it up to the present and to pass on Yogesh's question, he asks, "What would you do if you started from zero today? What would you do now?"
I I don't think I'd invest in property. I think I'd make my money work harder for me elsewhere. We
Right.
were just lucky to ha because all the houses we own at the moment, we don't. What's I can't remember the word somebody said in unencumbered or whatever it's called. I can't
Unencumbered, yeah.
pronounce it. Yeah. So, but I heard somebody else ask a question earlier on saying if you had £50,000, would you invest in houses? I don't think houses are paying. And for anybody who's going to go into the property game, I would say look at multiple sources of income, other incomes other than houses. That would be my advice to them. So that's one tip, the first tip of the day.
Wow, someone's not making some notes. Someone crack out the notebook and pen. I'm not sure this is great advertising for our property meeting though.
No.
Don't, whatever you do, don't invest in property. I mean,
Well,
but
no, it's not quite that. I think
ah,
if you do invest in property, it's got to be in the for long term. You can't just be in and out, wanting to do it for 3 or 4 years.
not even as
Because
it. Go on.
you could do flips, but we've never done flips.
Hmm.
And Yogesh is saying, disagree completely. It depends on your circumstances, I think. Uh, Property, we've done very well in property. All our wealth is in property. But, there's other means of earning money, and property is a little bit, takes a bit longer than, you know, uh, it is a long-term investment.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people it is, myself included. Some people definitely know because I host this, so I've met people, as I'm sure you have, who've kind of found various strategies, and that's what you're talking about, right? Where you get multiple streams, and whether that's
Yeah,
HMOs or flipping multiple units or planning gain, there are things that can be quick and can be very exciting.
yeah, yeah,
But most people, there's a great quote. Someone asked a very rich, he was a man, very rich man. He said, how do you get rich? He said, I got rich like most people get rich, very slowly.
yeah,
Um, and
yeah.
that I think true in property. But just for the record, because I wouldn't want anyone thinking otherwise, Yogesh completely disagrees with Isu's point, and thinks that property is the best investment. But Yogesh disagrees with most things, is my experience. And of course, we'll get him on in the future to give his own point of view. I wanted to bring Howard in because he put a nice thing in the chat, which reminded me of something like a similar story my dad's got. Maybe a lot of people of that sort of were around at that time.
My
Um,
age, you mean?
I mean old. I'm talking about old people, really old people. Although I don't think of either of you as old, but you want me to say old? I'll say old. To me, we're being old. Howard, tell us the story you popped in the chat because I think it's quite instructive.
Yeah, so I left school in 1973 and joined the Merchant Navy. And my mother gave me two bits of advice, and they stood me in good stead. The first one she said was, "Don't get any tattoos." I think she felt that was going to be part of my surf sailor days. And the
Yeah.
second one was try and save a little money each month in the Building Society. And so I put £50 a month away uh, or £50 a month. Yeah, I pretty much, as soon as I could afford it when I earned enough, into the Building Society. And then when I left and went to buy my first house in 1979, I was very grateful because the Halifax at that point were lending, only giving out money or lending money to people who had saved with them for at least 5 years. And
Oh,
they released it in
Right.
two tranches each year. So you had to be at the top of the queue,
mm.
and you to get to the top of the queue, you needed to build that reputation with them as a regular saver. So that was the deal. And they were very they wanted you to put a lot of skin in the game as well. So deposits were quite high then as well, higher than well, I don't know, I can't remember the exact numbers, but they were pretty high. So you had to put plenty of skin in the game and show that you were a Halifax supporter, I guess, to get your name on the ready for the next release of funds.
Yeah,
Interesting. Isn't it?
I'd
No, I think
forgotten about being at the top of the queue. Yeah, because if there were people who were saving longer than you, went to the top in those days. We're talking about Yogesh has asked a question, but Yogesh, yours was 2001. We're talking about the Wild West days of 1970s
uh,
here.
the era, though, for those who remember the podcast or remember my dad, who's still alive, by the way, but remember him talking about negotiating whether to buy a house in the 70s from a man sat on a horse. That's how I think all property deals should be done. We've got a very active chat today, which is nice. I should try and sound less surprised, but lots of questions coming in, which is great. Keep them coming. I can keep bothering Esu with stuff. Saves me doing any work. Julie asks, you've spotted a lot of opportunities. What's been your favourite or most unusual opportunity you found?
I think I bought a
Go.
business
Good to go.
in 2015, and part of the deal was I had to buy the building. And I was a bit concerned about this, and the man wanted. It was like four terraced houses in a new build, so it was equivalent to six terraced houses, which was about 4,000, just over 4,000 square feet. And I was really apprehensive about buying this property, and he wanted 280,000 for it. And I just said to him, "Look, I've got no money, and I've got 230. The property was run down, and I bought it, and I probably spent about 100 and odd grand from it on it, and I think it might be worth about 1 million. I don't know, but I've sort of hived it off into sort of various different little offices, and that's sort of yielding a good income, so I've recouped my money from that. And the best thing about that property is it had land at the back. So, no, that I've got a better deal than that. And I go quite excited about it. So,
Mentally scratch that one, everyone. That was Bobbins. Let's go for the real one here.
yeah. So, I about 6, 7 years ago, I bought a container to put in the back. So I had it converted, and it's sort of two offices, a toilet, and a kitchen, small kitchen, 32-foot container.
Mm,
And I put it in the back of our building I was talking about earlier. And I paid £3,500 for it.
mm.
I've just rented it out again, and it's going to be fetching me 9,600 a year. Now,
Oh,
you
wow.
can't beat that, can you, as an investment?
That sounds good. I think everyone gets to decide for themselves, but the £1 million one sounded good as well. So maybe don't scratch that first one. But maybe they're both good. How about that?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
But it was that property, and I've converted that property. Okay, we did spend. Oh God, the other thing was, let me talk to you about this as well. So the rates on this property were £17,000, and I'd got loads of dodgy people coming. Oh, we'll charge you 600. We'll charge you 1,200. We'll charge you 15. So four people later, I thought I can't pay this sort of rates, business rates. So I managed to get to some. Tom's stripping off, by the way, for those who don't.
baby.
He's trying to distract me. So I managed to get I don't know, RICS, whatever those people are called, and he said to me, "Look, if I can go back, getting your rates back for the last 4 years, but I want 20%," and he was on a no win, no fee basis, and I
Okay.
thought, "Do it," and he did it. We got what 17. Oh, well, you guys work it out. 17 times 4 less 20%, and he got his money and I got ours. But this was during COVID, and
Mm,
during COVID, if you were paying business rates,
mm,
then you would get £10,000. The government was giving £10,000, and I remember this is cutting it really fine. The day before the VOA, the valuation office or whatever, he managed to get it in, and luckily enough, I had four of my own businesses in that building
Mm.
and three other businesses, and they were all screaming at me saying they won't get the £10,000 because the valuation office hadn't sorted it out. And just the day before the deadline, he got it in. So not only did he get his money, I got the rates back, but I also got the £10,000. So this is not very good for the government, though. I got £10,000 back per business, so it was 40 grand per limited company. The grants they were giving for business rates relief or whatever it was called then. But also, kindly, GMCA, they also funded because everybody had to be socially segregated. What was it called?
Mm. Separated, all that.
Yeah, yeah.
Distanced.
During COVID. So we also got about £25,000 refurbishment to turn all our training rooms so the social distancing, so everybody could social distance from one another. So that building, when Julie sort of said which is the best investment, I think that's been a good investment, that business, that building.
We've got that's good stuff. We've got more stuff on the chat, but I wanted to. You had quite a long list of things at the start, some of which sounded very exciting. Why don't you go back to that list and give us a yarn from one of those items?
Yeah, so the yarn from one of those items, the car, the business, the building, the house I talked about buying it with a Vauxhall Viva.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, do you remember that?
I
So,
remember.
yeah, so 5 grand in Vauxhall Viva. Um, this is something that people do need to know about, and is during COVID we applied for planning for a HMO,
Okay.
and we got planning. So we couldn't believe, and you couldn't, it was all virtual in those days. Another Wild West days, or there might be something, a later version of Wild West, I don't know. And blimey, we got planning applications in what do you call it, Section 4 area, Article 4 area,
Yeah.
for a house for a HMO. And we thought, oh, great. So my husband goes down there, starts ripping it all apart. And the next thing we know is about 2 or 3 weeks later, we get a letter saying, whoops, we've made a mistake and we want to revoke that planning. And apparently, it was an administrative mistake they'd made, the Manchester City Council,
Oh well.
and they wanted to revoke it. We didn't think it was worth contesting, but it went to court, and it wasn't us, but it was the Crown versus Manchester City Council, because somehow the local councillor wasn't happy that the HMO license had been granted, and they how stupid can you get that you're wasting public money like this? So the two of them are fighting. But anybody that's got planning, what the message I'm trying to give is, anybody that's got planning permission, apparently they can revoke it within 42 days or something. It's some sort of period. So be bloody careful, of what you're doing.
So did your husband have to go back up and put it all back together again, Humpty Dumpty style?
No, 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 because I mean, what we wanted to work on the house, and this poor
Ah, okay.
bugger's still working on it. So we had to pull out the gable wall, and then we tried to get planning application for to convert it into two flats, and they refused. So what we've done is, it was a 3 bedroom house, and the gable wall had gone. So he's what's it called? Knocked down the gable wall, rebuilt it, to dropped the ceilings, and turned a 3 bedroom, 1 bathroom house into 4 bedroom. I think it's going to be 4 bathroom house in the middle of Moss Side. So any recommendations of what you can rent it off as would be good. We've been approached by somebody who wants to turn it into not supported living, but where a children's care home We've got
Oh yeah.
somebody asking us to do that. We've got another person who wants to do a rent to rent for, this Airbnb kind of thing. I don't know what you call it, serviced accommodation.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
It,
but any tips on that would be welcome.
you're supposed to give us the tips. We'll give you the tips later, but
Oh,
there's
right.
a bit
Okay.
where you
But
tell
I'm
us.
greedy, you see. So, and I'm
That's it.
even at 70, I'm learning, mate.
I think that's funny enough. I was going to say, I think that's without blowing smoke up your backside. 'Cause I don't think you need it. But for those listening, I think this is more what I'm about to say is kind of interesting. Is I think one of the reasons Isu's been successful is because she's always listening, always asking lots of questions, and always looking for opportunities that other people may have missed. You know so there's creative spark, and a big one. So the idea she was telling us about with the storage unit in the back of a car park, which putting a storage unit like what are they called, the container in the back of a car park. I wouldn't have thought of that. I definitely would not have thought of that. And she's making very, very good money. It sounds like an exceptional return on investment. Those kind of ideas, when you speak to Isu, which we are doing, of course, I don't know if you've noticed, they come up again and again. It's kind of a theme. To give some feedback, Kathy says, this is brilliant stuff, Isu. Julie says, I'm really enjoying this, enjoy listening to this as well, Isu.
It's Agnes in the background. She's
It
my
is. Well,
friend
fun
in the
enough.
background.
Well, we're getting straight to it. I want to go down your list of exciting things that you mentioned at the start in a minute. But before we get to that, why don't we do a question which comes in from Agnes? She says, "What advice would you give to a 12-year-old?"
I think the advice I would give to anyway, don't get institutionalized. I think follow your dream, but I say this to all my I'm in the teaching game. So a couple of things, Agnes, I'm going to say to you is sometimes when I go and teach, I will have an envelope, and inside the envelope, I will have a tenner. And I'll put it on the door at eye level so everybody can see that envelope. And it says, opportunity, take me. And everybody will go past it and they say to me, oh, well, we want to do well or whatever. And I will say to them, is have you all gone past that envelope? And they go, yes. So I go to the envelope, I pick it up, I open it and put the tenner or whatever I put inside it in my pocket and say, there's an opportunity right in front of your eyes and you've walked past it. So try and look for every opportunity you can. The second thing is, Agnes, what I'm going to tell you is I read somewhere that Harvard Business School looked at, no, I'm going to reverse back, Agnes, is I think sometimes we push ourselves enough to, and I've got to raise this issue because it affects a lot of people. It can affect your mental health as well. So look after yourself, be healthy more than anything. If you want to live to be my age, and how old I can't remember what year it was when I was 12, but and I was talking about Harvard Business School. They did a study whereby they looked at the successes of people after they'd left Harvard, and they, this followed a few students of theirs. The ones who had thought about what they were going to do after they finished the university course were not very far. But the ones who'd actually written down what they were going to do went the furthest of everybody. So what the moral of this story is, write down your goals and work out a way, an action plan, how to get to it. So that's what I would do. Have a sort of a goal in mind. But having said that, Agnes, one of the things is for anything, you need to have an exit strategy. And I'm still working out my exit strategy now at 70. So, but make sure that you do have that planned.
Why do you need an exit strategy?
Well, I think I want to have a second career. So, I want to stop the training company because it does suck up a lot of my time.
Mm.
But hey, this is it. Okay, so I want to have a second career. So I've decided I want to be an influencer at the age of 70. And I think everybody's got to write this down. I'm going to set up a YouTube channel, and it's going to be called It's in the Post, meaning my letter for death sentence is in the post. I don't know when it's coming. But then I started to think about this, and I thought, oh, well, influencers get death threats, don't they? Sorry,
Mm.
I'm going completely off the topic, but never mind.
That's surprising.
Uh, Saki. And, uh, so I thought influencers get death points,
Mm.
death threats. And I thought, well, what's the point? Because my letter's in the post, so there's one, you know, thing there. So, yeah, watch this space, guys. And that could be my second career. So I could be an influencer after
Oh.
we've done our flash mob and our kite flying day, Tom.
Oh, we've got all sorts planned. The if your letter of death or whatever it is in post with Royal Mail, you should be fine for a while yet. Um, they don't tend to get there that quick. Circling back, I was excited by. I wanted to get another story from your list at the start. Have you got that list written down there, or was that from the
Yeah,
top of the
so
head?
do you want me to talk to you about enforcement notices and things like
Yes, I
that?
definitely wanted to. I would definitely want to hear that. Go.
Right. So, we in 1995 we bought a piece of land. Now, this is something interesting. So it was still a little bit not regulated. So, um, um, we used to go to Wales quite a lot, and somebody we know in Wales sort of rung us up and said, "Oh, there's because we wanted to buy a plot in Wales, North Wales." Beautiful spot. And he said to us, "Oh, there's a house up for sale." So we decided, I think it was about £15,000 for an acre of land, and it was a tin shack on it. And so we went to the estate agent and said, "We want to buy it." So we thought the sale was going through. And the next thing we know is this person has rung us up and said, "Oh, the estate agents has put the sign up for sale sign up again because it wasn't on then."
Mm.
So my husband drives down at night, pulls the sign off, puts it in the bin, comes back, and we ended up buying. I mean, that was another, Julie, that was another good thing we'd done because we ended up building a house on that land. So we knocked the tin shack down and put 200 tons of stone and built a house in North Wales out of stone, second hand, everything second, including the radiators. And it ended up costing us about 45K.
Well,
So I mean, we're still building on it, but on Wales, we next to our house in Wales, we bought a further 3 acres, and that was agricultural land. So this was the best thing, another good thing that happened to us. And COVID didn't quite affect us, I'll have to say. I'm sorry to say. And basically, what had happened was my husband likes buying tractors and diggers and boats and dumpers and harrows and you name it, all sort of implements that go behind a tractor, and excavators, and then for the excavator, he needs another spare one for spare parts and things like that. So we put it, he put it all on the agricultural land. So the next thing we know is there's an enforcement notice saying we've got to clear it. So this is another good thing about COVID. So nobody was allowed to travel in those days. But we'd go with our enforcement notice saying, "Oh, well, we've got to clear this land." So we're going to Wales. So, you know, it worked quite well for us. But there is stupidity in this matter. So then there was a court case about it. And and there was like a proper judge that came all the way from Cardiff and it was held in the cinema in Pwllheli. The court case was held there,
mm.
and you know we argued that it was anyway. To cut a long story short, they said that we were blighting the area because we put the stuff on agricultural land. And guess what my husband did? He just shifted all the stuff to our house, the acre of land, and you know that was it, and they agreed with it. But the stupidity of it all is sort of only moved about 50 yards into our land, house land, and there was like a proper court case there.
Mm.
And the other thing that went in our favor was the local authorities supposed to put in signs everywhere when there's a court case like this, to
Mm.
say that if people object to it or whatever, they need to contact them, and they forgot to do it. We put our notices up on our land, but they didn't. So that was the thing about Wales. But what I do need a tip, actually, that we've got another piece of land, about another acre of land in Wales, and
Oh yeah.
unfortunately it doesn't have planning permission, but we can't seem to do anything with it. So if anybody's got any tips on what we can do with the land, there's a funny story about it, and I'll tell you in a minute. If anything we can do with that land, then I'd welcome some advice here.
Mm.
It was funny, when we bought the land, we'd bought it like 20, 30 years ago, and all the people around our house were quite very friendly with us. But then one day my husband started, because it's sort of, the land had trees on it and everything for 30 odd years, and he started clearing it. And so the next thing we know is all the neighbours are up in arms. You're stealing the land and all the rest of it. They'd called the police in, and that we're saying to the police, we own the land and everything. Well, no, we've been trying to buy it. And my husband saying, well, you never, sort of kind of, we've not received any request for somebody wanting to buy it. Anyway, so we got it cleared, and the guy next door was sort of said to him, he threatened to slash his face with a knife and all sorts of things that were going on. And then there's people stomping up and down, ringing up, there's badgers there and everything. Anyway, got the land cleared. And then what happened is one day it was overgrown, and my husband went in and cut all the grass down. So then one Easter morning, he goes in, and he decides he's going to sort of burn the straw. And he goes up, throws a bit of petrol on it, and he goes up, woof, into a massive big, what's it called, flame. And the man comes running out, the one who was sort of threatened to slash him with a knife, with his mouth, start swearing at me, you effing whatever, you're gonna set everything on fire. So it was really funny. And my husband comes back saying, you should have seen him in his underpants. This is a man who was trying to threaten him with a knife, and then he's in his underpants and a hose pipe. Sorry, I'm laughing because I can just imagine him, but never mind. Coming back to reality. So uh, I don't know what else to say to you guys now. I'm running out of stories.
That's good. You've done a good job there. Excellent stuff. And I don't want anyone writing in saying we don't get a variety of speakers and stories on Cuppa, because we got some stuff. Some great stories. Most of Isu's stories start with some dodgy goings on. Not from Isu, of course, all perfectly legitimate. But
Other people is always
it's always other
can I just
people.
say, I mean, I'm going to say something else as well. In the And I'm talking as far back as the 1995.
Okay.
One of the things in the housing market that was happening, which very, very rarely you'll see these days, is I used to work for the local authority. I used to work for Tameside, and we used to work in Ashton-under-Lyne, and it was a renewal area, and we were giving grants or having mass refurbishments of properties, en masse, like would refurbish whole streets
Oh,
because that housing stock was run down. Unlike Manchester, and we were spending like 30, 40,000 pounds per house bringing it up to scratch. And I have ended up last year, no, year before last, buying one of those houses in Ashton.
Mm.
But in Manchester, it had a different strategy whereby they were running down the areas. So, if you look at Beswick and Clayton and all those kind of areas, and just at the back of Piccadilly, they were kind of running down the areas and sort of bringing the house prices down so they could buy it cheaper and clear it and put new stock in, whereas Tameside had a different strategy. But one of the things we did do, here's another good deal that happened to me, was my role within the council was to involve the community in the rebuilding and how we would refurbish and how we'd sort of how what kind of houses they wanted. So in Ashton, one area in Ashton, it was that it was little things like there was Asian communities there, and when we were sort of rebuilding the housing, social housing, we were saying, like, you need stronger kitchen cupboards and things like that to put your, sort of a 5 gallon drum of oil and sacks of rice in, and things like that. But I made a proposal to the council. Was there wasn't a nursery in one area in Ashton, in Holy Trinity area, and we were knocking down some houses. So I went to the council and said, look, why don't we build a nursery? And I used to manage some of the youth provision in there. And above the nursery, we will have a youth area. So what happened was they agreed and managed to get some central government funding, ERDF funding, and all those different kind of funding pots, lottery as well. And we built a mugger next to the nursery, 36 place nursery, and we rented. It was the whole building was then sort of given to an organisation, for a charitable organisation, for £1. And the nursery was rented out to a private nursery, and they were paying the rent, and fortunately they listened to me, and the youth club was then free to run.
Mm.
But few the charitable organisations a few years later wasn't running it properly,
Mm.
and they had to sell the properties because there was 3 properties that were given to them for £1. And what happened was I found out that they were selling this nursery. It was about 2013. So I couldn't approach them directly because it would have been a conflict of interest, because I knew the board.
Mm.
So I couldn't, it would have been sort of dodgy dealings. But that fortunately they had got a new CEO, and I approached the new CEO and said, "Look, I believe you're selling the nursery." He says, "Yes, well, the nursery itself has people who are running the nursery have offered me 150, but the charity commission says we've got to sell it for 160." So I said, "I'll give you 160." And they said to me, what did I want to do? So I said, I wanted to have a training facility above. And the board then met, and they agreed they could sell it to me. So I ended up buying this nice building in Ashton on the Line for 160,000. So that was another good buy. And but that is, earlier on we were talking about being in the right place,
Yeah.
and that was being in the right place at the
It's also having your antennae out, though, isn't it? Because you can be in the right place, a bit like your students walking past the tenor. You can be in the right place and not smell the opportunity. There's
yeah.
one of the guy, one person I follow talks about how you've got to be like, I forget the breed of dog, but like those dogs that sniff blood or sniff, opportunity, or sniff those truffles out. Is that pigs? Anyway, whatever. You've got to be on it really quickly, and that's true in property. And you were, and as a result, you got rewarded. And it's also, as we know, it can be scary. I'm not saying that one was, but it can be scary, and you've still got to proceed with things. I'm gonna.
Just one thing on that, and then I'll let you say what you've got to say. We've got Yogesh and probably Krishna online, and they'll understand it. But my grandfather used to say, "Je velo, te pelo, je cello, te gelo." So I don't know whether Yogesh wants to come in and explain what he understood, if he's still there. Uh, But
I didn't understand. I was just saying to my Krishna,
you don't speak Gujarati.
I do, but I didn't understand.
Is that
All
it?
right, okay. So whoever's the earliest is the smartest. Whoever comes in late is an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cut along,
Well, that sounds right.
yeah,
I get it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yogesh has got to work on his
yeah.
Swahili. That's what I've learned. Um,
Are you, can you speak
Gujarati.
Swahili, Yogesh?
No, I can speak some Gujarati, so I don't know why I didn't understand that, but sorry, it's not that good, my language skills.
Well, it's Kutchi more than Gujarati.
Well, that's why, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's
Well, it's a
it.
similar. It's near enough next door dialect, isn't it,
Yeah.
Yogesh?
I'll come back and improve my skills and come back.
Yeah. You get busy, Yogesh, disgracing everybody like that. So chat's going wild, as you'd expect. So you were asked briefly about opportunity, like what to do with your land, the one land, and that seems to have sparked everyone's interest. Yogesh suggests comping, which I think means camping, solar panels, mining computers, weddings, etc. So many uses for land people will pay for, he says. Could you create a Welsh version of Glastonbury, as you'd expect? A different tone of ideas, because that one comes in from Julie, different people. Or an event for your followers or your new influencer account. Plenty of chat as well. Grants, tractors, storage units. It's all amazing. I think the first time new venture has been launched on copper. Is that right, Tom? And kind of, yeah, I suppose it is.
You know, on the tractor side of it, what I keep on saying to me, I mean, have you seen that film Back to the Future?
No, I've not heard of it. No, actually, I have now. I
Right,
mentioned
okay,
it.
right.
Yeah.
So there's a professor guy there, isn't there? The doc.
Doc,
So
yeah.
yeah, so my husband is always building things, and I sort of say to him, one of these days you're going to be coming up with a time machine somewhere, you know, because he's always sort of sorting out things. What was I saying about the tractor? I can't remember now.
Should we? Yeah, no, it's good. I think that's the best story I've had so far today. Let's roll back with we got I'm getting questions from people, but there's no time. There's never enough time. I'll have to get you back on for extra questions. Kathy, by the way, suggests regenerative farming.
Yeah, but it's in Snowdonia, so you've got all the planning things that hit you.
Yeah, mining
It's not
computers
as easy as
might be tricky. Yeah, understood. I wanted to ask. This is you're dipping your toe into. We will wrap up in a minute. If people need to go, that's fine. We'll wrap it. This is you dipping your
the
toe
board. You see, that's what it is.
into influencing. You see, how do you think how do you think it's gone so far? And
You know,
it piqued your interest for
I'm
more influencing?
cutting my losses, going to earn some money elsewhere.
Well, that's. I think
My
that's
internet's gone unstable.
I think that's the only way to finish, really. I think it's rounded things out beautifully. So I'd like to thank everyone for being here. Particularly appreciate Esu, of course, being with us as she so often is, but sharing with us has been fabulous this morning. I hope everyone's enjoyed listening and watching at home, and we'll catch you in the next one.